Honkai Star Rail recently announced a Zenless Zone Zero collab, which is cool because I personally love when characters from other worlds and universes interact with the original cast of a game or story I'm invested in. But with that said, clearly the HSR team has taken some inspiration from ZZZ because Robin Summeretto has the craziest character model in Star Rail. But believe it or not, that's actually not the most detailed thing in this video, because today I'm going to be going over Robin Summeretto's best builds, teams, how to play her, and whether or not her E1 or her light cone is better. So with all of that being said, my name is Braxophone, but you can call me Brax, and let's talk about Robin Summeretto. Robin Summeretto is broken. This is pretty much a fact. Sometimes I see complaints about how every single Star Rail guide that I post calls characters broken, insane, amazing, etc. Maybe if Star Rail stopped making every single character better than the last ones, I wouldn't have to invent a new ceiling for the word broken every single video. In Robin's case though, I'm pretty sure everyone welcomes it. Most people being excited because it's Robin, a fan favorite, and the rest of them because she's half naked. Robin literally buffs almost every single stat in the game though, and rather than explain what Robin does, it might actually just be easier to explain what she doesn't do. Robin Summeretto cannot provide break effect for your team outside of Firefly, provide elation bonus for your team, do your taxes, or bring your father home. I'm pretty sure literally everything else is on the table though. Robin's entire kit revolves around vibes, stacking up to 50 times. Everything you use her in is going to become completely vibes-based. Vibes-based pure fiction, vibes-based memory of chaos, vibes-based anomaly arbitration. Robin's a remembrance character, and she's got 3 summons packed into one. By using her skill, she summons her first bird, at 6 vibe stacks, she summons her second, and at 12, she summons her third. Once all 3 birds are out, she basically hosts her own music festival. It's like Burning Man, except it's not in the middle of a desert and it's by the ocean, so we're just gonna call it Drowning Man. With 3 birds out, she starts singing and becomes immune to crowd control, and as long as she's singing, your party gets massive buffs. One buff in particular is a defense ignore for all allies in her zone, which is deployed when she starts singing. That defense ignore is 15% plus vibes times 0.5%. For most gacha players to understand how much defense shred that is, we need to open the schools. Following PEMDAS, you basically just cut your vibes in half and add 15, and that's the percentage of defense shred you get, up to a maximum of 40% at 50 vibes. With her first passive, you get more than just defense ignore though, because if your character is an attack scaler, they'll gain an attack buff based on vibes and Robin's max HP. And if they're an HP or defense scaler, they'll get a huge crit damage buff. At max vibes, up to 36% of Robin's max HP is converted to attack, and at max vibes for the crit damage buff, you can get up to 115% crit damage, at least at E0. Allies get it when Robin gets vibes from them, and catching a vibe with Robin is super easy. All you need to do is heal, shield, or attack, and each one of those once per turn can give Robin a vibe. This also applies to Memo Sprites, so Hyacinth is able to get a ton of vibes per turn, and the Aeon of Veracity is once again back and stronger than ever. Summer Robin's skill itself doesn't do too much. It basically just summons her first bird, as I mentioned before, but if any of the birds are already out, it'll heal them to 100% health and gain 6 vibes. But once she starts singing, she doesn't take turns anymore until her vibes hit 0. As for Robin's birds, they get their own turn in the action bar from her talent, where they'll dish out damage based on their HP, which is based on Robin's HP. It's not high damage, but it's certainly more than I thought these dinky-ass birds would be able to do. This is kind of unrelated to Star Rail, but these 3 made me think of Birdemic, which is probably literally the worst movie series I have ever seen. I highly recommend you guys watch that. It's a genuine work of art. One of those bad movies that you can't help but watch the entire thing. No, but honestly, it's pretty terrible. On top of their own attacks, when Robin starts singing, they increase Robin's damage dealt as well as their own based on vibes. There's also a second addition to the action bar, which is the countdown to her vibes dropping. When this action comes up in the bar, you need to run. It's the vibe killer. Not even Dexter Morgan is able to locate this thing, and when it finally catches up to you, it kills your vibe. Robin doesn't even want to sing anymore. When the Vibe Murderer takes action, vibes are reduced by 50% with a minimum reduction of 12. And once again, at 0, Robin's singing state ends. It's peacefully quiet but at what cost? Also, the more birds that are out, the more damage enemies take, maxing at 16% damage taken, and that's on top of all of the other buffs. And if you thought her buffs were done, there's actually a lot more. Her technique will instantly bring her action forward by 20% at the start of combat, but it also grants 6 vibes instantly, and all allies will gain a 30% damage bonus for 2 turns. Honestly, 2 turns isn't really that long, but it's a significant boost to damage right at the start of battle. She also grants herself and her memo sprites 50% crit rate with her 3rd passive, and with her 2nd passive, she gains energy much quicker. That same 2nd passive will give Robin and her summon a buff called Groove whenever they're healed or shielded, and they instantly get 12 stacks of it, maxing at 12 stacks. Every time Summer Robin gains vibes up to once per ally turn, she consumes a Groove stack to gain 3 energy, so it massively helps with getting her ult. Robin's ultimate costs 140 energy, and with it, she's able to grant 100% action forward to an ally and instantly give them 20% fixed energy based on their max. Yeah, she power crept her own brother. The targeted ally also gives Robin 2 extra points of vibes when they would normally grant 1, which is, funnily enough, why you can and should action forward Hyacinth in some teams, because she'll stack up vibes super quickly and get you to your maximum buffs. So your goal with Robin Coachella Edition is to stack up vibes quickly, because with her full kit at E0S0 max power, she grants 30% damage bonus for 2 turns, 40% defense ignore, 36% attack to attack scalers, 115% crit damage to HP scalers, 16% damage taken on enemies, 50% crit rate to herself, her own damage contribution, 20% fixed energy gain, and 100% action forward. She might genuinely be the most broken support ever. Yeah, at least this month. We'll see what they do with the next one. She does need the right team setup to make her buffs work correctly though, because a team that's too slow isn't going to get the most benefits possible, and in some cases, other supports might be better. But to be honest, any team with Hyacinth instantly gets buffed by Summer Robin, and most teams are fast enough now to where the vibes are always there. She's also fairly easy to build, though before we get to that section, I'd recommend leveling her ult, talent, and memo sprite talent to max before everything else, since that's where her buffs are going to come from. So now that we've gotten 2 different Robins, and they're both supports, can we expect a DPS Robin in the future? I'm talking Warped Tour Robin. Like, imagine seeing Robin playing punk rock and metal and blowing up 5 enemies with AoE damage. Or hear me out, full Robin team. Actually, I wonder what it'd sound like when they all ult. When it comes to building Robin, she's actually fairly simple. You just want sets to buff your team, and the best one to do that with is 4-piece World Remaking Deliverer, which grants 8 crit rate to Robin on the 2-piece, and with the 4-piece, Robin and her memo sprites get 24% more HP, but also increase ally damage dealt by 15% with basically 100% uptime, since the effect doesn't disappear till our next basic or skill, which in the right teams will never happen. Now, in a break team, you can put her on 4-piece Watchmaker, which can give your allies 30% more break effect, but for any other team, it's really worth farming World Remaking Deliverer. As for planar sets, Lushaka is basically your best bet in any team except full HP scaling ones, since it gives 5% more energy regen to Robin and an extra attack buff to your leftmost ally. But with that said, in fully HP scaling teams, you can opt for something like Broken Keel for the team-wide crit bonus. Another option is Amphorius the Eternal Land to give your entire team an 8% speed bonus, but you should only do this if your team isn't already speed tuned without buffs. Overall, I definitely recommend energy regen planar sets for most content though, since getting Robin's ult is going to be the most important thing for your damage, whether it's stacking vibes or giving your damage dealers more attacking opportunities. For teams where you use a lot of characters with Von Walk or other early action advances, you can also put Von Walk on Robin as well. For main stats, I recommend an HP or crit damage chest piece, speed boots, an HP sphere, and an energy regen rope. For most content, I'd recommend an HP chest piece to maximize Robin's damage, same with the planar sphere, which is going to have a higher output than a wind damage sphere in most cases. But sometimes, if you're in a team that doesn't use her high max HP for an attack buff, specifically with HP scaling DPS teams, a crit damage chest could be better. She'll basically always want speed boots to make her memo sprite speed higher, and for her rope, energy regen is going to net you the most ultimates, which leads to the most action forward and energy for your allies. And who wouldn't forward their action when this bop starts playing? For substats, in an ideal world, you would want over 160 speed total, but overall you should just make her fast and then focus on HP, crit rate, and damage. But don't pass 50% crit rate since you're gonna get the rest of that for free in battle. Here's a summary on how to build Robin Summeretto, and hopefully your relic rolls are going better than mine. Oh boy, a new amazing support character in a Honkai Star Rail. I sure hope there are free-to-play light codes for them other than the Herta shop. Alright, so Beach Blast Robin is a remembrance character, so that means she's basically got no good free-to-play light codes. With the exception of Memory's Curtain Never Falls, every other solid light code for her is a premium character light code or a battle pass one. Light codes like Hyacinth's can actually net you more overall damage than Robin sometimes. The reason is that Robin's signature actually buffs your ally's speed, which is only good sometimes. Also, adding more HP from another light cone can increase your team's attack buffs, which can matter more than the speed overall. For high-level players, it's probably crazy good, but for the average player, sometimes it matters, and sometimes it's like running a 4-star light cone with 30% HP and nothing else, because the speed might not even matter for the content. That's not to say your light cone is bad, because it's actually quite insane in the right. Basically, what I'm saying is that the average player might not have the right hands. I don't even really know how to go into detail about this light cone because it's basically your utility light cone versus a bunch of light cones that will add more personal damage. So you can kind of decide which one's more important for you. And if you don't have any of the light codes shown on this chart, go ahead and just use the highest base HP light code that you have, even if it's not a remembrance one. I've genuinely just been staring at this blinking Robin for like 3 minutes. I don't even know how to start this section. So the Himiko Nova team I showed in my pre-release analysis is still really good. Actually, nothing really changed from there. I just have a couple more teams to talk about. But the Himiko Nova team in particular is really good just because of the massive attack buffs that Robin can give to Himiko. And because Danheng is an attack scaler too, technically speaking, you do get some better shield value. Though it's not going to make a massive difference in damage, it is going to help a little bit. The main thing is that Himiko Nova is just such a powerful character, and you can take many actions with her assist skills. Danheng is going to give you plenty of extra actions, and when you're playing her with Danheng, she's going to be on the mode where you get extra assist skills when you use 2 ultimates. So Robin in this team can fit the position of an action forward character that can action forward Himiko before Sparkle or after Sparkle, depending on the situation and your speed tuning. But she also provides Himiko just a ridiculous amount of buffs overall, and the team is very good. Now the Ashblade team is another team that is very powerful, and despite this team comp not being my favorite, it is very fun to play with Robin Summeretto. Something else that's important to know is that Robin Summeretto's damage in a team like Ashvale, Mordenax, Blade, and Hyacinth actually does become pretty impactful, especially when you consider all of the other sources of defense ignore or shred, vulnerability, and on top of that, Hyacinth's extra actions in tandem with Ashvale and Mordenax Blade's follow-up attacks will make it so that you can stack up vibes very easily. So this team is also very, very good. Now you also have the Memoslop teams where you can run Castris and Evernight and Hyacinth together, or you can even play Cyrene if you want to play just Castris or just Evernight, or specifically if you don't want to replace her. I know that makes some of you so sad. These teams will basically ensure that everyone in the team is getting the crit damage buff, and in these teams you want to action forward Hyacinth to try and build up vibes as much as possible, and also get more healing actions for Castris and Evernight. Specifically, Castris is going to get her ultimate like significantly quicker, so both these teams work out very well, and you definitely don't need to action forward Castris in this team. I was doing that for a while just to see how it went, but no, just action forward Hyacinth. It's better, especially for the vibes you get as well. Now, one team in particular that I'm really excited about is the Gilgamesh Saber team. Robin Summeretto helps this team out a lot. Both of these characters are getting massive attack buffs, and Robin Summeretto is able to also grant extra energy, which Gilgamesh feeds off of and Saber needs. So with Huoho and Robin in this team, you're able to give out so much extra energy when you ult, and Robin's going to be able to action forward Saber or Gilgamesh to give them more actions. Typically, I've been using it on Saber because Saber getting an ult is also huge for Gilgamesh's ult gain, but this team feels ridiculously strong now, and I absolutely love it. Even at E0 Saber, I'm getting a ridiculous amount of ults now, and it's just so great. I also wanted to give a shout out to a break team. Now, technically, this is a sustainless team, but as you guys know, Firefly does self-heal, and sometimes you can do some cheeky stuff with break teams just because, you know, the enemy is not attacking you for a minute. And now, if you did want to add a sustainer, whether or not you remove Fugue or the Dahlia is probably going to depend on the content just because of how Fugue makes things actually break. But to be honest, if you were going to pull Robin specifically for Firefly, I would assume that your you're missing one of these two characters, in which case you would just fill in that character slot. The character that I would personally replace is Fugue in this team if I was going to do so, because Robin's buffs will still be a gain over the loss of her break. And the last team that I kind of want to showcase is just this Evanescea team. Now, Robin Summeretto, I think, is going to work very well in Elation teams, with a lot of characters being able to benefit from a lot of the debuffs that she puts on enemies or the defense ignore that she puts on your allies, but also some characters do get value from things like crit damage or attack turning into Elation damage. And Evanescea in particular is a dual scaling character where she actually does want some attack. So Robin Summeretto can work very, very well here. Now, with that said, I do think that Robin Summeretto will also work pretty well in some other Elation teams in the future, and it is very likely and highly probable that she will work with Aventurine when he comes out. So if you're an Elation fan, then this is a character to keep your eye on and potentially pull for the next upcoming characters. But if you're skeptical, as always, don't force yourself to pull a character until you know for sure that they do work with the character that you want to play them with. There will always be reruns, and I'm sure both she and Mordenax Blade will come back soon for everyone that regretted skipping them. But if you're here, you probably didn't skip this character anyways. You probably have her. It should just be noted that like Robin Summeretto is basically a universal support that truly works with like every single team in the game and is just like so ridiculously good. If you're playing a slow team and you're not able to keep vibes up, you just kind of have to throw Heist in there. But other than that, she's just so ridiculously good, guys. I don't even know what to say about it. She's just so strong. Now, if there's some kind of sick freaks that want to improve her damage even more, let's go over her Eidolons next. One of the most interesting things about this patch is Star Rail trying to make the beach episode a canon event. We're getting two stories, and one of them is on the beach party planet, and at least from the trailer, it looked like they were both connected, which means we've officially reached One Piece style filler episodes. Sometimes the story is really what entices people to pull for characters, but for me, I was planning on pulling Summer Robin anyways. If you're in that boat or planning to get extra copies just because you like who she is, this is going to be what her Eidolons do. So first off, her E1 records and outputs true damage, much like how Cypher does, where she records all of your damage dealt and later dishes it out and also increases it based on the amount of vibes you have. For those of you who don't know, true damage is just damage. There's no like extra stuff to calculate with it. It's just whatever the damage is that you get calculated is the damage you do. It's dealt via her memo sprite, and it actually adds quite a lot of personal damage for Robin. E2 is insane though, because it gives your whole team 18% res pen, but also increases her max vibes to 70, which buffs basically her entire kit. Her defense ignore becomes 50%, her attack buff becomes 44% of Robin's max HP, her crit buffs increase to 145%, and her personal damage also becomes much stronger, especially because she gains an extra 2 vibes anytime that she would have gained 1. So getting to max stacks is significantly easier. Now, Robin's E3 is a skill, talent, and memo sprite level up, but honestly, not that significant. And E4 is going to give her a 12 vibe bonus when she starts singing, and her birds get a speed increase based on the starting vibes. E5 is an ult, basic, and memo skill level up, and E6 doubles her bird's damage multiplier, and more importantly, allows Robin to store up to 2 ultimates at a time. After entering her singing state, or whenever a vibe killer's turn comes up, she gets 140 energy. This means that she can action forward allies very frequently, and her damage output is going to also be significantly higher than when it started with E6. Now, what's really crazy to me about this is how they've made this support broken without Eidolons. But of course, with Eidolons, she will be significantly better. So here's a comparison of her Eidolon value, and honestly, it's a real eye-opener. Between her E1 or S1, for most players, E1 is going to add more value for her since it's just more damage overall than her light cone in many different teams. But the value in her light cone is specifically dependent on the level of player you are or if you're running Elation teams, since most of those want to move fast. For very high level players or for folks looking to upgrade their Elation team, arguably S1 could be better. But after all of these unskippable units in all of these patches of every single gacha game, we all know you're not going to be spending that much anyways. Not this time. At least her song is a jam though, and definitely worth your $300. Subscribe if this video was a vibe.